For decades, the Long Halloween saga has been one of the most influential crime stories in Batman history. It began with Batman, The Long Halloween, continued in Dark Victory, and now years later, Jeff Loeb returns to finally close the story with Batman, The Last Halloween. This series serves as the final chapter of the Long Halloween saga, a story that reshaped Gotham forever. From the fall of the Falcone crime family to the tragic transformation of Harvey Dent into Two-Face and the rise of Gotham's costume criminals. At the center of it all was a mystery that haunted Gotham for years, a serial killer who only struck on holidays, known as Holiday. For a long time, the truth behind the Holiday murders remained one of the most debated mysteries in Batman comics. But in The Last Halloween, that mystery finally reaches its conclusion, as Batman ultimately uncovers the truth behind the Holiday killer. In this video on Panelix, we're going to break down the full story of Batman, The Last Halloween, and how it brings the entire Long Halloween saga to its final chapter. It's Halloween, and in places like Metropolis, it's time for children to dress up in costumes and collect candy. But Gotham City is not Metropolis, and Halloween is when a serial killer named Holiday strikes against the Falcone family. Carmine, the Roman Falcone, calls this long year the Long Halloween. Additionally, Halloween holds personal significance as the district attorney and his partner, Harvey Dent, lost half of his face in a fire, transforming him into Two-Face. Along with his wife, their names are linked to the Holiday killer, though they have been in hiding for the past year. Meanwhile, Bruce has promised at his parents' grave that he will eradicate the crime in the city that took their lives, and that is why he will search for Gilda and Harvey Dent. Bruce then comments on how Commissioner Jim Gordon has dedicated himself to Gotham and sacrificed his family. It is nighttime and raining, and Jim's son, James, is wearing a Batman costume, but cannot see because the mask is too big. His mother, Barbara, can't do anything and asks Jim if James has to wear this mask, but Jim seems to be busy talking to Lopez on the phone. Barbara ends up arguing with Jim and says that James should just wear a Peter Pan costume, but then Barbara can't find James. James's umbrella and candy box are seen lying on the street with no sign of James, and Jim looks panicked and calls James's name repeatedly. Elsewhere, Batman is watching Mario Falcone's house from a distance. Mario always hoped that Falcone Imports would be a legitimate business, but in the end, he continued to live with the knowledge that his father, brother, and sister had all been killed by the Holiday killer. It was raining heavily that night, and Robin commented that next time he would need to ask Alfred for long pants to stake out in the rain. Batman told him to go home, but Robin pointed out that Catwoman was inside the Falcone house. Batman felt that he shouldn't have been surprised that Catwoman was there, but he was still surprised and wondered what Catwoman's connection to the Falcone family was. Inside the house, Catwoman looked at a painting of a woman and a man. She asked Mario, who had caught her, about the picture of a baby that should have been in his mother's lap but was now missing. Mario wondered how Catwoman knew about that, especially since he should have been arresting her for breaking into his house instead of talking to her. Mario then threatened her, saying that curiosity could kill a cat, and Catwoman sarcastically replied that he was supposed to be a good boy, but instead, he was threatening to kill her. Mario continued, saying that the painting was one of the things he had managed to take out of his burning house, and Catwoman replied that it was Mario who had caused the fire. Instead of feeling remorseful, Mario asks if a man isn't allowed to burn down his own house. Catwoman then says that Mario hasn't been seen in Gotham for a long time, and Mario agrees and says that he is now back. Catwoman asks again why he has returned, but Mario only replies that they will find out in time. He then asks why Catwoman snuck into his house, but instead of answering, Catwoman leaves the house. Mario calls her by her name, Selina. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin see Catwoman leaving. Robin declares that it's time for them to take action. He then jumps down from the statue, lands on the wall, and then on the ground. He comments that he thought cats didn't like water. Next, when the two of them caught up with Catwoman, Robin stylishly called her Kitty, while in his heart, Batman said that Robin's actions were youthful arrogance, even though he might not be able to defeat Catwoman. Catwoman did not remain silent. She threw a rope with balls at both ends that wrapped around Robin's neck, and he looked in pain and was about to fall to the ground. Batman called out and chased after him, but before he could reach him, Robin managed to untie the rope and land safely. Batman commented that his actions were reckless, but Robin scolded Batman for letting Catwoman escape, stating that he was not a burden, but a partner. But then a gunshot was heard. Robin said it didn't sound good, and sure enough, Catwoman was seen falling from a height afterwards. Although Batman had seen her survive a fall from the same height before, he didn't know how many of her 9 lives she had left, so he approached the spot where Catwoman had fallen and found only a gun and a broken Halloween pumpkin. Seeing the pumpkin, Batman felt that this was Holiday's doing. As he approached, Robin asked if Batman saw where Catwoman was. Batman saw the 2 pieces of evidence, a bandaged .22 caliber pistol and a broken pumpkin, and thought that this was an imitation of Holiday's killer. Robin said that he had also studied the case, but how could Batman know that this was an imitation? Batman replied that he had already caught Holiday's killer, but according to him, the question that needed to be asked was how he used a .22 pistol to shoot from a long distance and hit her, even though this weapon was a close-range weapon. Robin argued that it was possible that Catwoman shot herself and that this was all a trick, but Batman firmly replied that she couldn't have done that. Robin retorted that it was possible because Catwoman had already almost killed Robin, but then Batman's spotlight appeared in the sky, and Robin told Batman to leave because Gordon was waiting for him. Meanwhile, Robin packs and marks the 2 items and waits for the police to arrive. Finally, Batman hands them to Robin while he heads towards the spotlight. At the same time, Barbara is crying in front of her house while Detective Lopez asks her for her testimony. Police line is visible in front of her house, and several other police officers are chatting. Detective Lopez asks what clothes her son was wearing, and Barbara says he was wearing a Batman costume, even though she honestly didn't like him wearing it, but James insisted. Barbara's eyeliner smudges down her cheeks as she cries. She continues, saying that she wanted James to be Peter Pan, and then asks if this happened because James was wearing a Batman costume. Detective Lopez responded that it was just a routine question, and besides, this wasn't the first time her son had gone missing. Hearing this, Barbara got angry, pointed at Lopez, and said that the previous incident had happened when James was still a baby. But then Barbara asked why she was asking these questions and not looking for him outside, especially since Jim wasn't there. After that, Barbara hugged Lopez and cried loudly. Under the Batman spotlight, Jim told Batman that someone had taken his son, and Batman said he would look for him. Jim added that if they didn't find him soon, the FBI would get involved. Then suddenly Jim cried and asked what if this happened to him, and someone took Robin. After that, Jim apologized for saying that, but he questioned why this happened on Halloween. Batman added that there was something Jim needed to know about tonight. In a sewer leading to Gotham Power, Solomon was seen standing in front of a door and stairs leading down to a pool of water. He muttered his own name and birthday, but suddenly a smoke bomb was thrown at him, causing him to cough. Then a chain with a ball at the end tied around his neck and pulled him down. Even though he tried with all his might, Solomon still couldn't pull his neck back up, so he was pulled into the water and couldn't get out. At that moment, there was a voice behind the door saying that Solomon was there. It turned out to be Harvey, who was with his wife Gilda. He shot the locked door open, and they both went out to meet Solomon, but Solomon wasn't there. Instead, there were 2 people wearing clown masks pointing shotguns at them. Seeing their masks, Harvey thought they worked for the Joker, so he said that if they worked for the Joker, then they didn't know who they were dealing with. But then, another person wearing a clown mask appeared. He said that they knew who they were dealing with. Then the man shot Harvey, and Harvey fell unconscious, while Gilda cried and hugged him. The man took off his mask and told Gilda Dent that he wanted to talk about Holiday, or else this would be her last Halloween. Gilda just looked at the man with hatred in her eyes. It is now November, and the air is very cold. Solomon, who disappeared yesterday, is now sitting unconscious on a boat with two men tying him down with chains and weights. One of them says that Solomon is very heavy, and his friend replies that when they threw Mickey Gazzo and his brother here for Sal, they were even heavier. They sit Solomon in the back of the boat ready to be thrown overboard, while his friend asks again if this man can really rise from the dead like a zombie. But the other man replies that the only thing they need to worry about is the winged creature. His friend then kicks Solomon's heavy body into the sea, and with the help of the weights, Solomon sinks deeper into the water. Meanwhile, Batman and Robin were at Arkham Asylum. It was the first time Batman had brought Robin to the place where crazy criminals were held. Robin looked at the cells as he followed Batman and commented that the place was very crowded. Batman asked what he meant, and Robin replied that it meant that they, especially Batman, had done their job in capturing these crazy maniacs. Batman replies that some people think Batman's existence attracts these criminals to Gotham, but Robin thinks that's crazy. Just like blaming someone for being shot because the police carry guns, and that the two things are unrelated. When passing a cell with the name Julian Day, the person inside whispers that he knows something Robin doesn't. Robin entered Julian's cell and asked what Calendar Man wanted, and Calendar Man said, "How could someone else be called Batman?" And Calendar Man, while he was only Robin, did he just want to be a follower? Robin replied that Robin Man sounded stupid, and besides, the genius never changed the date on his calendar from October 31st to November. Calendar Man seemed devastated to hear that, but then he offered something that would make Robin equal to Batman. Back to Batman, he still hadn't found any further information about the disappearance of James Gordon Jr., the son of Commissioner Jim Gordon, the person he trusted. So he came to Arkham to see Jervis Tetch because he was desperate. As soon as he arrived at Tetch's cell, he immediately bombarded Tetch with reminders that he had kidnapped little Barbara and dressed her up as Alice in Wonderland. Tetch rambled. The March Hare said, "Take some more tea." Alice replied, "I've had nothing yet, so I can't take more." "You mean you can't take less? It's very easy to take more than nothing." Batman lifted Tetch up, saying that he didn't usually act like this, quoting Lewis Carroll to be considered crazy. Tetch said that Batman was indeed crazy, but he would tell him a secret. Batman threw Tetch into the cell, hitting some objects, and told Tetch to tell him about Gordon's son. Tetch said that he liked children but didn't like boys, while Batman continued to approach him and grabbed his collar, saying that his presence here was already madness, so the disappearance of this child was either Tetch's doing or he must know who did it. But Tetch rambles again, the walrus and the carpenter. Batman doesn't give up, saying he won't leave until Tetch tells him, but he only says, again, the walrus and the... Batman corners him again, and he says, "The penguin and the carp," when suddenly Robin calls him, saying he has something to show Batman. Elsewhere in Arkham, a man with a scalpel was seen about to cut something and said that it would hurt a little. At that moment, Robin told the man to get away from the person in front of him. It turned out that Catwoman was there. She told the doctor not to listen to them and to continue with the treatment, while Batman said he had been looking for her for a long time. Catwoman casually replied that now he had found her, then told Batman to take Robin away. Batman asks what happened, and Catwoman, with her leg bandaged, explains that she was shot and thought she could handle it herself, but the wound became infected and Dr. Thorne helped her. Batman then asks for the bullet, but Catwoman only responds that she also wants Batman's mask, but he definitely won't give it to her. Meanwhile, Robin asked for Catwoman's leggings and gloves, and Catwoman finally realized that they thought she had shot herself. Robin replied that it was possible, so he needed to test Catwoman's clothes for gunpowder residue to clear her of suspicion, but Catwoman only commented on how annoying Robin was. Finally, Batman offered the best medical help in Gotham, but Catwoman refused, saying Arkham was safer. Batman was confused by Catwoman's intentions, but she explained that the shooting happened on Halloween night, Thanksgiving was coming up, and she was shot with a .22 caliber pistol. Batman replied that he had stopped that person before, and Catwoman answered that it took a year, even though she had 9 lives, but she didn't want to wait that long. This conversation made Robin pause. He realized that they were talking about Holiday. Days passed, and it was almost Thanksgiving, but there was still no news about James Gordon's son or who shot Catwoman. In his office, Jim was smoking while looking at a photo of his son. A moment later, Lopez entered the room and commented on how often Jim smoked. Jim replied that he had only started smoking recently because Barbara didn't allow him to smoke at home. Then Jim put out his cigarette in an ashtray that was already full of cigarette butts. Lopez then hands him a package that she says was just delivered with no message, and she thinks it might have something to do with Jim's son. Once opened, Lopez looks confused by what she sees, while Jim recognizes it as an ancient Sicilian message. There is a shirt and a fish inside the package. Lopez looks worried and says that Jim is not alone, but Jim replies that it was that person who did this. But Jim is still confused as to the meaning of this message. Suddenly, Batman appeared in the darkness, saying that it was Solomon Grundy's clothes and that he would not give up his clothes willingly. So it seemed that he was dead. Seeing that the sender of the message used ancient Sicilian methods, Jim asked if Mario Falcone was involved. But where did he get such firepower? Because Grundy's power was enormous. Batman thinks this has something to do with Two-Face. While Jim doesn't know why this has anything to do with Harvey, then Batman explains that Grundy has been his friend or bodyguard all this time. Hearing this, Jim feels like they are going around in circles. Suddenly, Lopez asks who turned on Batman's spotlight. The Batman symbol, which Jim usually turns on, was lit up in the sky. Jim replied that he didn't do it. It turned out that the people on the roof who turned on the Batman spotlight were FBI agents named Edwards and Sullivan. One of them said that they had been trying for a while before they figured out how to turn on the spotlight. His partner added that it was time for them to meet because they were working on the same case. Jim turned off the lights and asked Batman who they were, and Batman explained that they were Edwards and Sullivan, FBI agents who had been asking around lately. A man in a purple jacket showed them a small umbrella and asked if they knew what it was. Batman took the umbrella and explained that it was the umbrella James Gordon had been carrying when he was kidnapped. The man in the purple jacket asked for their thoughts, but Jim got angry and said that the FBI had spent weeks looking for his son but couldn't find him. They hurriedly left the place, saying that they were just doing their job, while Batman, who was still holding the umbrella, asked Jim if it was really his son's umbrella, and Jim said yes. Batman said that someone had put a plastic cover over the original handle, and he was sure that person knew a lot about umbrellas and their construction. Jim asked how the FBI could have missed this, but according to Batman, no one missed it. But they must have had a purpose. And when it was opened, it turned out that the umbrella handle was shaped like a penguin. On Thanksgiving night, Batman was at the Gotham fish market when he saw Oswald Cobblepot approaching a fishmonger with two henchmen holding umbrellas to protect him. He then took a fish and put it in his mouth, and when he took it out again, only the bones remained. At that moment, Batman threw two devices to incapacitate Oswald's two henchmen, and Batman appeared, saying that Oswald had been hiding lately, but when he was hungry, he still had to come to the surface. Oswald had been ostracized as a child because of his long nose and sharp teeth, but even as a criminal, Joker and Two-Face did not respect him. The Riddler also looked down on him, so Batman didn't know if he had kidnapped James Gordon to gain the respect of these people. Upon seeing Batman, Oswald threw the fish in front of him, saying that the fresh fish was free from him. Oswald turned and ran towards the train station bridge, climbed the stairs, and when Batman asked where James Gordon was, Oswald used his umbrella to jump and fly to the other side of the train tracks as the train passed. Batman, who was about to chase him, had to stop when the train passed in front of him. Furious, Batman blamed himself for being distracted by Robin and Catwoman, and at that moment, the Mad Hatter told him by changing the lyrics from "The Walrus and the Carpenter" to "The Penguin and the Carpenter." Because the train did not pass, Batman jumped from the top of the station to the bottom. Meanwhile, Oswald was running down the station stairs, but at the bottom of the stairs, 3 people wearing scarecrow masks and carrying firearms were waiting for him. When he saw them, Oswald immediately said he wouldn't talk, but there was no response from them, so he turned around to go back up to meet Batman again. But at that moment, he was shot in the chest and fell at the feet of those people. Oswald still said he wouldn't talk, but the man stepped on Oswald's face and confirmed that now he wouldn't be able to talk anymore. Not long after, Batman jumped from above directly in front of Oswald, who was lying on the ground. He realized that after James Gordon, Catwoman, Solomon Grundy, and now Penguin had become victims, especially now that it was Thanksgiving. Batman approached Oswald and grabbed a .22 caliber pistol lying near him, wondering what the connection was between all these victims. As his hand held the gun, a light shone directly into his eyes, and a voice told him to put down the gun he had just picked up and raise his hands. Batman told them to remove the light shining in his eyes. When Batman raised his hands, he saw Edwards and Sullivan pointing guns at him. He finally understood that the FBI had deliberately provided the umbrella yesterday, so that Batman could lure Oswald out of hiding and catch him red-handed with this .22 caliber pistol so they could frame him. Batman then released a red ball in his hand, and white smoke covered Edwards and Sullivan's vision and made them cough. It's Christmas Day in Gotham City, and for most people, today is a happy day, but for Batman, today is his most challenging case yet. On Halloween night, Commissioner Gordon's son was kidnapped with no ransom demand or any other request from the kidnapper. Batman promised Gordon he would bring his son back, but the lack of clues is extremely frustrating. But Batman knows there is someone who finds this situation exciting. His love of solving puzzles is his strength. He is Edward Nygma, the Riddler. Although Batman doesn't want to, he has to find the Riddler, even though he is sure that Nygma did not commit the kidnapping, but he might know who did. However, his actions put the Riddler's life in danger. At that moment, the Riddler was looking at a collection of riddles and puzzles when suddenly, someone wearing a Batman mask appeared and pointed a gun at him. He ran away as the masked men fired at him, but without realizing it, one of the masked men was waiting for him in front of him with a bandaged pistol. The pistol was fired and hit the Riddler's arm, causing him to fall. As the three Batman masked men approached him, the Riddler said he wouldn't tell anyone. But instead of sparing him, they stepped on his hand and shot him in the cheek, knocking out his teeth. To make matters worse, an imitator of the serial killer Holiday was on the loose, using the same weapon and similar modus operandi, namely using holidays, but with different victims. They were hunting freaks throughout the city such as Catwoman, Penguin, Solomon Grundy, who is still missing, and all this made the Riddler anxious. And when he was anxious, he talked a lot. After the shooting, the police arrive and set up a police line while Jim keeps the evidence, a bandaged gun. Meanwhile, the Riddler is lifted onto a stretcher, watched over by Jim and Lopez. Lopez greets Jim, saying she's glad to see Jim out from behind a desk, and Jim agrees, saying it's his season. Jim was seen holding the Batman mask used by the suspect, saying that his son had gone missing while dressed as Batman, but Agent Edwards came to take the mask and the .22 caliber pistol from him. Jim asked if they were trying to be annoying or if they taught this at the FBI. They didn't answer that, and Sullivan even asked about Nygma's condition, and the paramedic with glasses replied that he was stable and ready to be moved. Edwards orders him to be transferred to Arkham, while the paramedic tries to explain that Gotham Hospital is closer, but Edwards insists on taking him to Arkham. Jim sarcastically remarks that they don't need to consider the input of an experienced paramedic, and Edwards replies that he is still alive, and with the perpetrator still at large, he doesn't want Nygma placed in a civilian hospital. Jim replied that he wanted to question Nygma, but Edwards considered this an attempt by Jim to stall for time so Batman could show up. Jim still wanted to explain, but Agent Edwards was already shouting his orders to take Nygma to Arkham. The paramedic with glasses commented that the federal agents were scumbags, and his colleague replied that they were no different from the model citizens whose lives they were trying to save. The man with glasses asked if she didn't like freaks, and his friend replied that she didn't like anything about them. The two of them then got into the ambulance, and his female colleague wanted to tell him about the Joker flying around Gotham on New Year's Eve, but the man with glasses just told her to drive. As the car drove off, Robin was seen hanging from the back door, and then Batman got out from above and climbed onto the roof of the car. After a moment, Batman threw a smoke bomb into the car. The Riddler was wearing his own oxygen mask, so the two paramedics coughed from the smoke bomb and then passed out. At that moment, the Riddler opened his eyes while Batman took the keys from the front of the car, and then he and Robin were in the back of the car facing the Riddler, who was already seated. Batman said that his hand was broken so that the Riddler couldn't write, and the bullet that pierced his cheek would also cause his jaw to suffer stitches for months. Batman added that someone didn't want him to talk and that the Riddler had to tell him why. Robin replied that the Riddler was talking, but Batman reminded Robin not to joke around, but Robin wasn't joking. He explained that he was talking with his eyes, blinking quickly for periods and slowly for commas. Robin tried to interpret the Riddler's blinks, while Batman felt that Robin's Morse code training with Alfred had paid off. Robin said that the Riddler was saying, "When is a car accident not a car accident?" Hearing this, Batman replied, "When there's no dent." Batman tells Robin that the paramedics will wake up soon, so Robin must help them and act like a hero. Robin replies that he is a hero. Batman continues that when he arrives at Arkham, Robin must stay outside and Alfred will pick him up later. However, Robin thinks he should go with Batman, but Batman has already left him behind. At Arkham, instead of waiting outside as Batman had instructed, Robin went inside, saying he would show Batman who the real hero was. Robin encountered Calendar Man, who asked him what he didn't know. Calendar Man told him to come closer to the glass, but Robin didn't budge. He asked if Robin was afraid because many people said that Calendar Man was just a joke. At that moment, the end of a whip tied Robin's hands and pulled him backwards. Behind him stood Catwoman, who told him to get out of this cell, but Robin replied that she was not his boss, which made Catwoman point at his nose and say that it wasn't very smart, but Robin replied that she knew that. Catwoman explained that someone knew Robin was wandering around in here, and if she didn't do anything, Catwoman didn't want that to happen. Robin stated that he wasn't like Batman, whose eyes immediately widened every time he saw Catwoman, and Catwoman smiled at Robin's choice of words. Robin then asked what Catwoman wanted, why she was hiding here, how she could walk around Arkham casually while everyone else was imprisoned. Catwoman walks out of the cell and says that Robin should know that she is different from the others. Meanwhile, Batman arrives at a house that Harvey bought twice for Gilda, his wife. The first time was when he was still District Attorney Harvey Dent, Batman's ally. The second time was when he bought it as his alter ego, Two-Face, Batman's enemy. As soon as Batman opens the door, Gilda's voice is heard asking if it's Mario or Harvey, and Batman asks Gilda about Jim's child. Meanwhile, Gilda is seen hiding behind a cardboard box with a gun. Upon realizing it's Batman, Gilda cries and tells him that they shot him and took him away, and she doesn't even know if he's alive or dead. Batman is shocked to hear that the child was shot, but Gilda corrects him, saying that it was Harvey, whom she calls Apollo, who was shot. They told Gilda to take care of the child if she wanted to see her husband alive, so Gilda simply did as they ordered. Gilda then turned on the lights, saying that it had been several weeks. The lights in a hallway turned on, and Jim and Lopez were lurking outside the house. Lopez seemed to be carrying a gun, but Jim reminded her that Batman had told them not to use guns. Before long, Batman and Gilda came out of the house with James with them. James seemed to be calling for his father, and the two of them hugged. In Roman's penthouse, the once unbeatable crime boss of Gotham, there was now only one heir to the family, Mario Falcone, Roman's son. Batman quietly entered Mario's house, then took a billiard ball and threw it at the guards in Mario's house until they were unconscious. Hearing the commotion, Mario opened the door to the room and found Batman there. Batman said he had found James Gordon, who had been kidnapped by Mario. And Mario replied that Batman was crazy, but Batman didn't care. He hit Mario and said that Mario couldn't play the good guy card with him, adding that Gilda Dent had told him everything he had done. Batman asked what his purpose was, whether he wanted to destroy the city like his father, brother, or sister had done. At that moment, Mario pulls out his gun, saying that Gilda is insane and that the two of them have set Mario up because he would never want to deal with someone who killed his father. As Mario is about to shoot, Batman grabs Mario's hand holding the gun, causing it to fire into the air. There was a tug of war over the gun between the two of them, while Mario continued his statement that Gilda was worse than Two-Face. Batman didn't know how much they had. But before Mario could finish speaking, the sound of a gunshot was heard. There was blood dripping from Mario's forehead, and he said, "No." But it turned out that Batman had been shot in the shoulder. Mario added that Batman had been turning a blind eye to the Dents, perhaps deceived by his memories of Harvey, but the two of them were partying on the bones of his family. All Mario wanted was to restore the Falcone family's image, just like the Waynes. Mario then pointed the bandaged gun at Batman's temple, adding, "I am the good son." Batman was wounded by a shot from the bandaged pistol in Mario's hand. As Batman fell, Mario pointed the pistol in his hand at Batman's temple, saying that he himself had caused this to happen because his family only wanted to do business, but Batman took it too personally. Batman took out the knife in his glove and slashed Mario's leg, causing him to fall in pain. Batman approached him and punched him, saying that it was indeed personal. A few moments later, Alfred and Robin were seen playing chess in Batman's cave when Batman's car arrived, and Alfred commented that Batman had finally arrived. Robin replies that it was about time he arrived. Alfred continues, saying that Batman has solved the James Gordon case and made another achievement. Then Robin suddenly asks if the car isn't going too fast. But the car continues to drive towards them, and Robin feels that something is wrong, so he pushes Alfred, who is in front of him, out of the way, so he won't be hit by the car. When they looked out the car window, they saw that Batman was unconscious with a gunshot wound to his chest. Alfred said that they had to get Batman out of the car immediately. Alfred carried Batman's upper body while saying that they had to take him to the operating table, while Robin, who was checking his breathing, said that Batman was not breathing. But Alfred insisted that they had to take him quickly because every second counted. Finally, Robin helped carry Batman's legs and commented that he was very heavy, and Alfred explained that it was because Batman was unconscious, so when the body starts to weaken, it feels even heavier. Once Batman was on the operating table, Robin asked how Batman could have driven here if he was unconscious, and Alfred explained that Batman's car had autopilot. But Alfred didn't continue his explanation and told Dick, aka Robin, not to ask questions and just do as he was told. Alfred uses a scalpel to cut open Batman's chest, and when he uses a stethoscope to check on Batman, Robin asks if he will be okay. But Alfred tells him to be quiet. Alfred says that Batman's heart has stopped beating, but Robin yells at Alfred to heal him. At night, on a boat in the middle of the ocean, two people are seen on board, one of them wishing his friend a Merry Christmas. The other replies that they are here to guard the dead. He asks if his friend doesn't believe that this person can come back to life, but his friend isn't even sure if the person is in there because they weren't the ones who threw him in there. He understands that they are only following their superior's orders. At that moment, there was a puddle of water on the deck, and he asked if his friend had urinated there, but his friend denied doing so. He was confused as to why there was water on the deck. Suddenly, Solomon Grundy appeared beside the boat, and drops of water from his body wet the deck. He said, "Solomon Grundy." Then Solomon climbed onto the ship and used the chains binding his hands to hit one of the men there. The other man exclaimed that he was indeed alive again, while Solomon continued to say, "Born on a Monday." The man ran towards the helm and was about to raise the lever to start the boat, but Solomon was already behind him. And with the weight at the end of his chain, he hit the man until he fell into the sea, still saying, "Solomon Grundy." The boat finally reached the shore, and he added, "Died on a Saturday." Then the ship exploded. Solomon was seen walking along the shore, still muttering, "Born on a Monday." Meanwhile, in Batman's cave, Batman's heart rate monitor showed that his heart had stopped beating. Seeing this, Robin asked if Batman was dead. Alfred was seen pumping Batman's heart with his hands, while Robin asked Bruce to hold on. Alfred then gave Bruce artificial respiration as Robin watched and pumped his heart again. At this moment, Robin's tears fell. Fortunately, the heart rate monitor showed Bruce's heartbeat again, and Robin jumped for joy upon hearing this. A moment later, Alfred put a mask over Bruce's mouth while explaining to Robin that they still had to remove the bullet. But Robin was confused as to what bullet he meant. Alfred explained that the bullet had pierced his lung, causing blood to fill the area. Alfred removed the bullet from his lung, and after that, Robin asked what else they had to do. Alfred replied that they had to wait until Bruce felt he was ready. Robin asked again if Alfred couldn't inject something to wake Bruce up, but Alfred replied that they had done their best, and what was needed now was Bruce's will to live. Next, on December 26th, Robin and Alfred were welding Bruce's car when Robin asked why they were repairing Bruce's car instead of taking care of Bruce. On December 27th, Alfred repaired the lower engine of Bruce's car while Robin handed him the tools he needed. Alfred replied that the Bruce he knew would want to drive this car if he woke up later. On December 28th, Robin installed the wheel bolts while Alfred was beside him. And on December 29th, Robin reminded Alfred that he said if Bruce woke up instead of when Bruce woke up, and Alfred just nodded. On December 30th, the car was repaired and Robin wiped the tires clean. Then, on December 31st, Robin told Alfred to go to sleep and that he would wake him up if anything happened. Alfred left because he thought tomorrow would be a new day, and Robin agreed because tomorrow was New Year's Day. Once Alfred left, Robin looked at the Batman car and thought that he couldn't die. Robin got into the car and tried to start the engine by saying start and go, but it didn't work. However, when he said on, the car asked him his destination. Hearing the autopilot using Alfred's voice, Robin thought it was Alfred speaking, until he finally realized it was the autopilot. Robin then said he wanted to go to Arkham Asylum, and he told the car to drive fast. Sure enough, the car sped off to Arkham Asylum. It turned out that Robin was visiting Calendar Man again. Seeing Robin's arrival, Calendar Man sarcastically asked if he was late for night school, but Robin immediately asked what Calendar Man really knew and if he would let him go. Calendar Man commented that Robin was on the wrong side, but Robin disagreed, saying he wanted to stay on this side while Calendar Man had to stay inside, and he also tapped the glass barrier with his cane. At that moment, Catwoman arrives and throws the ball end of her whip at Robin's hand holding the cane, causing the cane to fly away from the glass. Catwoman says she warned Robin not to come back. Seeing Catwoman, Robin says that she is the one he was looking for. Robin pulled his cane so that Catwoman's whip slipped from her hand. He said that he wasn't ready before, then swung his cane at Catwoman's legs, but Catwoman easily jumped over it. Catwoman commented on whether that was what he considered being ready, because the swing of his cane couldn't be stopped. It hit the glass barrier where Calendar Man was and cracked it. Catwoman then kicked Robin in the back and told him to go home, but Robin continued to try to attack Catwoman's injured leg with his stick, saying that this was what he meant by being ready. Catwoman screamed in pain and cursed at Robin, then approached him to gouge out his eyes. At that moment, Robin covered his face with his coat, then sprayed orange smoke into Catwoman's face. Catwoman was knocked unconscious, and Robin carried her out, saying that luckily, she wasn't as heavy as someone they both knew. Meanwhile, Calendar Man covered his nose with a cloth, because the orange smoke had not yet cleared, while looking at the cracks in the windshield where he was being held. Elsewhere, Solomon Grundy arrived in front of the Gotham police station, where Jim was getting ready to go home while wishing Lopez a happy new year. Lopez asked if what she saw outside were fireworks, but Jim realized that they were gunshots and not fireworks. Suddenly, the glass next to Jim shatters as a police officer is thrown through it from outside. Solomon enters the building while Jim tries to revive Lopez, who is unconscious with several glass cuts. Meanwhile, Solomon enters the prison and finds Gilda there. Gilda asks if it was Apollo, aka Harvey, who sent Solomon to help her. Solomon pulls open the prison door, then breaks the Batman spotlight on the roof of the building. He then carries Gilda and jumps from building to building, leaving the police station behind. Back to Robin. Catwoman, whom he had carried, was now in the car and began to regain consciousness. As soon as she opened her eyes, Robin explained that he did it because he was afraid Catwoman would refuse, but Catwoman still slapped him. On the cave stairs, Alfred was seen peeking at what was happening there without showing himself. While crying, Robin explains that Batman will die, and regardless of whatever relationship they have, when the doctor said that Batman needs spirit to live, Robin thinks that Catwoman must know what he means. Catwoman tells Robin to stop crying because she hates it. Then Catwoman looks at Batman and comments that he looks bad. Then she says she will remove Batman's mask. After looking at Batman for a moment, Catwoman said something and then kissed Batman on the lips. Robin asked what she said to Batman, and Catwoman replied that she gave one of her 9 lives to Batman. Soon after, Batman coughed and was able to get up from the operating table. Robin immediately hugged Batman, while Catwoman told Batman that she needed a ride back if Batman was able to do it. Batman went to take a shower and change his clothes, while he told Robin to cover Catwoman's eyes. As Batman climbed the stairs to take a shower, he met Alfred and said that he had been hearing Alfred all this time but couldn't speak, and only now could he thank him. After that, Batman drove Catwoman home in his car. He asked why Catwoman had to go back to Arkham, if she was hiding something, but Catwoman told him not to ask because it had been an exhausting night. Seeing the gates of Arkham open, Batman felt something was wrong, and Catwoman thought so too, but they continued driving into Arkham. Upon arriving at the door, Joker greeted them both with a New Year's greeting, and Catwoman simply replied that no crime goes unpunished. Joker mocked Batman for staying silent and said that all the freaks inside had escaped their confinement, and his New Year's resolution was to catch them all again. At Arkham Asylum, Batman feels unprepared to face the Joker, who has escaped from custody, and tells the Joker to return to his cell, but the Joker refuses because he has obtained weapons from the freaks, such as the Riddler's cane and Catwoman's whip. Batman jumps and attacks the Joker, saying that he will only end up failing like before. The Joker easily dodges Batman's blows, commenting that Batman doesn't seem to be in good health when he was expecting Batman to be in top condition. One of Batman's blows then hits the Joker, but he says that the blow has no power. He mercilessly hits Batman's stomach and head with the stick in his hand, while reciting a Longfellow poem. What a glorious new year this is going to be, and me with my perfect resolution. Now that all the cuckoos have flown the nest, I'm going to catch them all and prove I'm the best. Seeing Batman in pain, Catwoman tells Joker to let him go. Joker then asked why the world's greatest detective didn't know what Catwoman was doing in Arkham when she could leave Arkham whenever she wanted. Catwoman remained silent, and Joker added that the walls here had ears and Catwoman's secret had been leaked. Joker picks up Riddler's cane and comments that Batman doesn't look well, so if they don't want to go home and become ice statues, then it's better for them both to close their eyes while Joker leaves. Batman coughs while refusing the deal, then Catwoman uses her whip to pull Joker's neck, saying that Joker can leave, but he doesn't win. She explains that Batman's lungs are punctured by .22 bullets. As Joker falls, Catwoman releases her whip, and Joker replies that everyone knows no one can kill Batman except him, then asks who broke that rule. Catwoman answers that it was Mario Falcone. Meanwhile, Batman continues to vomit until his eyes water as Joker declares that Mario will get his revenge. The Joker approached Batman, patted his head, and told him a secret. Want to know who's responsible for the nuts nutting out of the nut house? It's a dilly. But at that moment, Batman was busy thinking about why the Joker said Catwoman could leave Arkham whenever she wanted. Batman also thought that with Arkham Asylum empty, Gotham would need him, especially since Jim would surely be working himself to death at a time when he should be spending time with his family, especially his son. Sure enough, late at night, Jim arrives home, and when he looks for Barbara, his wife is sitting in the dark and wishes him a happy new year while hiccuping. Jim says that she usually hiccups after drinking, but Barbara asks where Jim has been because she spent New Year's Eve with their son, whom Jim knows has just returned after being kidnapped. Jim approached Barbara and said that he had gone to the hospital to visit Lopez, and that he thought he had told Barbara. Jim explained that Solomon Grundy had trashed the police station and Lopez had been seriously injured. He continued by saying that Lopez would be fine, but it seemed that Jim had lost track of time. He regretfully added that he thought he had told Barbara. Barbara said that most police wives would think their husbands had been shot when they didn't come home, while Jim was talking about Solomon Grundy wreaking havoc at the police station. Barbara asked if he knew how ridiculous that was. Every year, Barbara always made a resolution to take their children to Chicago to be safe by leaving Gotham, and also leaving Jim. But Barbara stayed here with him for the dream Jim talked about, where he would clean up the city. Then Barbara turned off the lights, adding that she didn't think she could do this anymore. In the deeper darkness, Jim sat in a chair with a bottle of champagne and balloons decorating the room, saying softly that he thought he had told Barbara. In Batman's cave headquarters, Alfred is seen stitching up Batman's open wounds again. He reminds Bruce that he needs rest, but Bruce insists that he can't wait for his wounds to heal before taking action. However, Bruce remains adamant that the escaped prisoners are still out there, and Robin offers to help, but Bruce forbids him, asking if what Robin has done so far isn't enough. At this moment, Bruce is still thinking about the reason Catwoman is staying in Arkham. On the other hand, the Joker keeps his word and returns the prisoners who escaped from Arkham back to their place. We see the Joker rolling a criminal named Penguin, whose body is trapped in a chunk of ice, down the stairs of Arkham. He says that Penguin's ice will be available at Arkham Asylum. Beyond that, every holiday, there are always costumed criminals who get shot, and they are sent to the hospital at Arkham. Robin tries to suggest to Batman that they can do something, but Batman replies that he is not ready. After that, the Joker is seen playing pool, but the ball hits the duo Tweedledum and Tweedledee, while saying that they should change their names to Tweedledum and Tweedledummer. Back to Batman, who is now looking through a telescope. He explains to Robin that the person who shot Catwoman, Penguin, and Riddler had access to the same .22 caliber pistol as Holiday, with the same barrel pattern, the same bandages, and the same acid used to burn the serial numbers. Robin adds that the perpetrator, whether male or female, has injured their victims, but Batman asks Robin to listen to him just this once. On another occasion, Robin is practicing his baton skills by hitting Batman's body, while Batman keeps telling him to hit him harder, just like when Robin cracked the glass where Calendar Man was being held. Hearing this, Robin was shocked, of course, but Batman calmly asked Robin if he thought he wouldn't know that because of Robin's carelessness, Calendar Man was able to free the other prisoners. At Arkham, the Hatter's head was stuck in the Arkham gate. The Hatter said this was madness, and the Joker even joked that this gate didn't seem to be size 8. At another moment, the Joker pulls the limp body of the Riddler, saying, "Question: what's the difference between a joke and a riddle? Answer: when the joke is on you." In Batman's cave, Alfred scratches his head because of what Batman said to Robin earlier about Arkham Prison, and Robin can only comment that he didn't know it would turn out like this. Then Valentine arrives and Batman is ready. He hunts down Scarecrow and orders him to return to Arkham, but Scarecrow seems unafraid. He plans to blow up the power plant so Gotham will be plunged into darkness and its citizens will be terrified. He set the bomb and sang about bent iron and everything being destroyed, but Batman didn't stand idly by. He punched Scarecrow in the mouth, causing Scarecrow to drop the straw in his hand. Batman then took the bomb Scarecrow had set and threw it at Scarecrow's body, causing it to explode. The Joker, who was passing by on a black horse, stopped and picked up the straw that Scarecrow had dropped. The scene shifts to the roof of the Gotham Police Department, where Batman's spotlight is located. Jim, who had just climbed onto the roof, saw Edwards and Sullivan there and asked them why they were visiting. Edwards replied that they heard the lights had been repaired and that they were also curious about Gilda blaming Mario Falcone for the kidnapping of Jim's child. Jim explained that Gilda was insane and that she was no longer under protection. But his words were interrupted by Edwards, who said that Batman was seriously injured after infiltrating Falcone's house. Sullivan said they would pick up Falcone, but Jim said Gotham City didn't work that way. Sullivan responded that this was how the FBI worked. Edwards even reminded Jim that it was Valentine's Day and he could go home to see his wife. And Jim finally remembered Barbara. A few moments later, Batman's spotlight illuminated the night sky. Edwards and Sullivan finally took Mario in their car, and Edwards said they would take him to a place where there were no winged creatures. Hearing this, Sullivan replied that he hated it when Edwards called him that. Mario was about to say something about the city when suddenly the Joker appeared on his horse, inviting Mario to get out of the car and play with him. Mario simply commented that crazy people were coming again. Then Joker pointed his freeze gun and shouted, "Welcome to McDonald's, can I take your order?" Mario told Agent Sullivan to stop the car, but they kept driving, and Joker added, "One tasty Mr. Freeze coming right up." The Joker then fired the gun at their tires, and at that moment, a bandaged gun was fired at the windshield, causing the car to spin, roll over, and flip in front of a flower shop. Batman came chasing after the car. He heard the gunshots and guessed it was Holiday. He tried to approach the car but was too late because of Scarecrow, so the car exploded and Batman was thrown away. The passengers were lying on the ground after the explosion. Batman choked Joker, asking him why he did that, even though there were federal agents in the car, but Joker said he didn't know and only wanted to fix what Batman's friend had done. When Batman was about to hit Joker, Joker broke the straw he had taken from Scarecrow, even though this straw contained a fear toxin that would affect both of them, but Joker did it anyway. As soon as the straw is broken, Batman sees in his mind that he, Selina aka Catwoman, and Robin are watching a Zorro movie in the cinema like a happy family, but then a gun shoots Robin, even though Robin said he just wanted to try to help. After Robin's death, Batman and Selina look sad. Selina tells Batman that he just wanted to help, then Batman is seen running while saying that he has made a promise. Meanwhile, the Joker is hallucinating that he feels bigger than anyone else, when in fact he is so small that he has to be seen through a magnifying glass. Batman is still in his own hallucination, then Robin comes and drips the antidote into Batman's mouth, so Batman regains consciousness from his previous state. Robin asks what he should do with the Joker, and Batman explains that he is still in a state of fear. Robin is curious about what Batman saw in his fear because he keeps calling Robin's name, but Batman chooses to discuss this elsewhere. Batman then uses the freeze gun to cool down Agent Sullivan's car, which had exploded earlier, after which he checks inside the car. Batman finds the bodies of the two agents without Mario there, as well as a Valentine's card and a bandaged gun. From this, Batman concludes that Mario is not Holiday. But who took Mario away? Batman then sees ivy plants in front of the car, and at the flower shop next to it. At Jim's house, he finds a taxi waiting outside, and inside the house, Barbara is ready with her suitcase. Jim asks what happened, and it turns out that Barbara has decided to leave the house with their child. Even though Jim offers to find a solution together, Barbara is no longer willing. She feels that Jim has chosen Gotham over their family, and Barbara has now made her choice by leaving the house. At Arkham, Batman brought Joker, who was tied up to his cell. He reported to Jim that Agents Edwards and Sullivan were dead while Mario had disappeared, but according to Jim, at least Batman had captured Joker. He asked if this was the end, but Batman replied that there were still Calendar Man, Ivy, Freeze, and others. As he is about to be put in his cell, the Joker says he knows something they don't, but Batman closes the Joker's cell anyway, while Jim asks what he means. Batman replies that their every move is anticipated by their enemies, so this person understands them very well and knows how they think. Jim guesses that he means Falcone, but Batman instead asks where Harvey Dent is. On the other hand, Gilda is seen being escorted by a doctor to meet her husband in a sewer passageway. Gilda asks the doctor what he means by saying that Harvey won't recognize her, and the doctor replies that he has been waiting several weeks to see him, but only Gilda is willing to talk to him. The doctor added that he was still recovering from a gunshot wound to his brain, but Gilda was very insistent on seeing Harvey. The doctor opened the door in front of her, saying that they had met before because he was the one who treated Harvey's acid burns on his face. At that time, Harvey almost killed him, but that was what led him to this job, a second chance for him. Before pulling the door open, the doctor reminded Gilda once more not to make Harvey angry. Gilda then called out Harvey's name, and Harvey, who was holding a gun, called her Mrs. Dent and asked what she was doing there. After Gilda met Harvey, instead of recognizing his wife, Harvey pointed a gun at her and asked what Mrs. Dent was doing there. Gilda was not afraid. She asked who Harvey was, but Harvey replied that Harvey Dent was dead. Hearing this, Gilda took off her belt and used it to hit the gun in Harvey's hand while asking why he was saying this. After that, Gilda hit Harvey in the face and asked why he was doing this. Not satisfied with this, Gilda even climbed onto Harvey's shoulders and used her belt to strangle Harvey's neck. She wanted her husband back. Harvey told her to get off, but Gilda refused, even determined to get her Harvey back even if she had to kill him right then and there. Harvey tried to call Solomon, but he had trouble speaking because Gilda was choking him, while Gilda tried to call her husband to take over his body again. Finally, Harvey managed to call Solomon, who then pulled Gilda off Harvey's shoulders and obeyed Harvey's order to take Gilda outside. Gilda refused to leave, but she couldn't fight Solomon. Once outside the door, Gilda still tried to say that she needed Harvey, but Solomon closed the door in front of her. Back to the case of Edwards and Sullivan's overturned car. The area was cordoned off with police tape, while Jim and Batman stood in front of the car. Jim asked Batman what he knew about the case, and Batman replied that the driver of the car had been shot in the head with a .22 caliber pistol, the same as Holiday's. Batman knew this from the sound. According to Batman, the FBI agent died from the gunshot or the subsequent fire, but they had to wait for the autopsy results. Batman continued by saying that Mario was not in the car. It seemed that he had been pulled out through the window. But suddenly, Batman stopped talking and instead discussed why the two FBI agents did not have identification or weapons on their bodies. At that moment, Amanda Waller's voice was heard answering that it was because the two of them were not FBI agents. If Jim had told her about James's disappearance, he would have known this fact from the beginning. Amanda greets Jim and is greeted by Jim in return. Then Amanda comments that Jim still depends on adults who wear pajamas. Jim replies that Gotham is not Chicago. Waller asks whose fault that is. Then she says Edwards and Sullivan. But her words are cut off by Batman. Batman continued that the two of them worked for Mario Falcone himself, so Mario knew what they had and when they had it. Waller added that Jim made this a personal matter by not contacting Waller, and Waller would make it a personal matter by not helping Jim, so this would be a problem that Jim and the Caped Crusader would have to solve. Waller then left the place, followed by the gaze of Jim and Batman. Batman then asks if he has a history with Waller. Jim nods. Batman asks if he wants to talk about it, but Jim refuses. Jim asks how long Batman has known that Edwards and Sullivan weren't federal agents, but Batman doesn't feel he should have suspected them, because Jim brought them in, and he assumed Jim had checked them out. But Jim doesn't want to be blamed for this, especially since Batman often doesn't tell him things either. Jim took off his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. He felt that maybe Waller was right that he was too dependent on Batman, or maybe the loss of his son had distracted him. He hoped Batman wouldn't experience the same thing with Robin. Robin arrived carrying Ivy's vines in his hands. He asked if they were poisonous, then asked who the scary woman was. Batman replied that they might have to deal with her someday, then asked what Robin had found. Robin said he had done as Batman ordered, following the ivy vine into the flower shop, where he discovered that the vine was like a rope that had pulled Falcone into the shop. He found bloodstains on the back door. The vine then entered an alley and into Gotham's sewer system, whose cover was open, and Robin decided not to go in there before asking Batman. Jim said they were using the waterways like before, and Robin asked when that was, but Batman only praised his work. He also told Robin to get in the car to return to their lab and examine the ivy he had brought. Batman then instructed Jim to have the coroner's team remove the .22 bullet from Sullivan's brain. Robin asked where Batman was going, but suddenly Batman was already gone. Robin and Jim fell silent, then spoke at the same time, saying they hated it when Batman did that. It turns out Batman went to Mario's house because Mario had shot him with a .22 caliber pistol. But when he got there, Catwoman was already opening the safe in Mario's house, which was behind a painting of Mario's parents, and found the bandaged pistol. She showed the pistol to Batman because she thought he was looking for it, but Batman asked her how she knew that Batman wasn't looking for Mario Falcone or Catwoman. Catwoman commented that Batman looked healthier than before with the .22 bullet hole, just like this painting and this gun. She then offered a deal, but Batman rejected it first. Catwoman protested because she hadn't even said what her offer was yet. She held Batman's chin and offered to give him the gun, but Catwoman wanted the painting of Mario's parents. Batman asks why he doesn't just take the gun from Catwoman, and Catwoman gets up from her chair, replying that he would have done so if he could. Batman asks what Catwoman wants from a family painting that has nothing to do with her, and which has a .22 bullet hole in it, and Catwoman says that's 2 questions, then throws the gun at Batman. Batman leaves through the window, but Catwoman asks about Robin. He really cares about Batman, but Batman won't let that happen. She asks if Robin is special, then tells him about what happened when she was in Rome. Batman says Catwoman never told him she went to Rome, and Catwoman replies that she will tell him her secret when Batman tells her his. Batman then slid down from Mario's house upstairs, thinking that Catwoman knew where Mario was. Otherwise, why would she want the painting? Meanwhile, Catwoman was at Mario's house holding the painting she had been after, cursing, "Damn you." Back to Batman's cave. Batman was displaying photos of Mario, Harvey, and Gilda on his computer screen, while Robin was confused as to why Gilda was there when she was just a woman. But according to Batman, Catwoman and Poison Ivy were also women. Batman added that there was no such thing as just in Gotham City. And anyway, what was that a question they should be asking? Then Robin asked who this holiday really was, but Batman said that wasn't the right question. Then he asked why someone would pretend to be Holiday, and Batman told Robin to follow up on that question. Robin guessed that it was to distract them. Batman also asked why he or she kidnapped Gordon's child, and Robin replied that he didn't know. But why did she or he only hurt the victims while the first Holiday killed her or his victims? However, Batman said that was the wrong question. Robin then asks if they shouldn't be out fighting criminals, as Batman has spent too long studying the Ivy Leaf to the point that it has died. Batman replies that Robin can beat up Alfred instead, and Robin asks if Batman is joking. Batman moves on to the 3 elements of a crime, and Robin answers that they are motive, opportunity, and method. After that, he asks what happened on New Year's Eve, and Robin replies that nothing happened, meaning that Catwoman was taken out of Arkham because Batman was shot. Batman replies that they have moved past that, but after Halloween, no one has seen Two-Face, aka Harvey. On New Year's Eve, Gilda Dent went to prison, while Mario Falcone was probably at home recovering from the injuries caused by Batman, and there was no shooting incident at that time. Robin then asked what Catwoman whispered that night, as it could be used as a motive. Batman replied that she said Batman was on the wrong side, and Robin said that was what Calendar Man had told Robin. After that, their investigation was put on hold. Next, on St. Patrick's Day, a group of 3 people wearing two-face masks who intended to rob a bank encountered Victor Fries and his men, who had arrived earlier and frozen the police guarding the bank. The person wearing the two-face mask asked if they knew who they were robbing, and Victor Fries calmly replied that he knew. One of the two-face masked men fired his rifle, and Victor Fries responded with the freeze gun in his hand. At that moment, Batman and Robin arrived. Batman told Robin to take care of the armed men while Batman dealt with Mr. Freeze, and Robin agreed. Victor asked if they knew whose money this was, but Batman kicked him in the stomach first. Robin also kicked one of the masked Two-Face men, saying that it was cold here, and he was going to put them to sleep. Then Robin used his baton to hit the other masked man. He felt that this was the appearance of their masks, so he didn't want to see their faces. Beside him, Batman dodged a shot from Mr. Freeze, who shouted that this was blood money. After that, Batman punched Victor, who questioned where the greater evil lay. Suddenly, a .22 caliber bullet hit the tube in Victor's head, making it difficult for him to breathe. Victor then said that Batman was on the wrong side, while Batman applied a liquid to seal the hole in Victor's tube. Batman says that Victor won't die now. Batman then calls Robin because he needs his help, but Robin doesn't answer. It turns out that Robin is chasing the person with the .22 pistol. He shouts at the person to stop, but the person doesn't stop, and instead another shot is heard from the .22 pistol, causing Robin's expression to freeze. Batman runs after Robin and finds him lying on the ground with a gunshot wound and the .22 pistol nearby. Batman cradles the unconscious Robin. Elsewhere, on April 1st, Catwoman is seen walking with ivy vines beneath her. She says that someone thinks she is stupid. She then opened a painting of the Falcone couple and added that the person in front of her had helped locate the Falcone family's treasure. And as the last surviving heir, they would not waste that treasure. After that, Catwoman looked through the bullet hole in the painting and commented that unfortunately, she was not the last surviving heir of her family. Catwoman then asked Pamela if the man was behaving well, and Pamela aka Poison. Ivy replied, "Perfection." Catwoman then approached Mario, who was tied up with ivy vines, and asked about the whereabouts of Mario's mother, Louisa Falcone, because she was no longer in Rome and they needed her in Gotham City. After Robin was shot by Holiday with a .22 pistol, his hand was dislocated and took 6 weeks to heal. Batman tried to get Robin to remember the person who held the gun so they would know where to find Mario. But 4 weeks into his recovery, Robin said he couldn't remember anything. Batman took Robin's cane and insisted that Robin must have seen something or someone before the person shot him. Batman then hit Robin's hand with the cane, telling him to think hard. In the distance, Alfred watched all this with concern. Robin tried to ask for his cane back, but Batman hit him in the chest and said that Robin wasn't ready yet, because this wasn't a circus act. And even though Alfred still felt sorry for Mr. Dick, aka Robin, this time he agreed with Batman that Robin was not ready yet. In the 6th week, Batman again hit Robin's hand, which was wrapped in cloth to support his arm, with Robin's cane, saying that Robin was useless to him if he was broken, especially since it had already been 6 weeks. This time, Alfred shouted that what Batman was doing was enough, and finally, Batman stopped hitting Robin. Robin asked if Batman was going to leave him this time. Batman replied that after Robin, aka Dick, had recovered, they would discuss it, but Robin cut him off by tearing off his sling. After that, he grabs the cane from Batman, aka Bruce's hand, and hits Bruce on the head and legs with it until he falls down. Robin then declares that he has recovered. He puts the tip of the cane on Bruce's neck and says that he trained harder at the circus than what Bruce did to him. Bruce finally left, while Robin asked where he was going and if he couldn't come along, but Bruce said he still had work to do to find Holiday, and where Mario had been all this time. Robin scratched his head and asked how, but Batman simply told him to become a detective, then jumped away. Robin asked Alfred why Batman hated him, but according to Alfred, Batman was just afraid that if something happened to Robin, he would never be able to forgive himself. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon, who was in his office, looked at photos of Holiday's victims and suspicious people while drinking from his mug. Lopez arrived and said she saw the light in the commissioner's office was still on. Jim greeted Lopez and asked if she was happy to be back at work. Lopez replied that she was now working behind a desk and asked if Jim was still working on the Holiday case. Lopez approaches the photos Jim was looking at and asks why Catwoman isn't included as a possible suspect. Jim asks if that's appropriate. Jim's words confuse Lopez, wondering if it's inappropriate because Catwoman and Batman have something. But Jim seems confused by Lopez's answer because it turns out that what she was asking about wasn't Catwoman, but that he usually sends flowers on this day to Barbara with a card in their child's name. So Jim wondered if it was appropriate for him to send flowers to her while she was in Chicago, but Lopez felt it was inappropriate to give an opinion because her mother would only drive her crazy, but she thought, why not just do it? Jim thanked her and asked what she had said earlier about Catwoman. Lopez replied that when she was on leave, she thought that all the Holiday victims, including Penguin, Riddler, and Freeze, had been left at the crime scene, except for Catwoman. Jim replied that Lopez thought Catwoman shot herself to divert their attention from her, and Lopez replied that being the first victim would be the most appropriate move. Jim responded that it was possible, then moved Catwoman's photo to the line of suspects. Back in Batman's cave, Robin was looking for the species of ivy he had found yesterday in the data. He told Alfred that there were 30 types of ivy, including Morocana, Iberica, Algeriensis, Azorica, and Rumbia. And Alfred simply commented that it was interesting. At a cemetery, Bruce visited his mother's grave, which read Martha Wayne, bringing red and yellow roses. He said he didn't know how she could have never screamed and always read stories to him and spoiled him. In the cave, Robin circles one species on the screen while explaining that this type of ivy with white edges is called hummingbird ivy and is a rare species. It was this ivy that attracted Mario Falcone from the flower shop, which made him wonder if it was a coincidence that everything happened at the flower shop. Back to Batman, this time he visited the grave of Mary Grayson, Dick's mother, with yellow roses and said that he was a good boy. Batman felt that he couldn't give the same love that Mary gave to Dick, but Batman would keep him safe and give him a purpose in life. Robin said that he made the computer in front of him, talked to the big computer behind him to find out who and where ordered a large quantity of Ivy Hummingbird in Gotham City, but Alfred instead asked what day it was, even offering to take Robin to his parents' place. Robin replied that Alfred meant visiting their graves, and Alfred added that their place was close to the Wayne couple's graves. Robin asks if Bruce blames him, and Alfred replies that Robin needs to ask Bruce himself. Robin retorts that Bruce was still a child at the time, so he couldn't have saved them. And Alfred simply comments that they can only imagine what it feels like. Hearing this, Robin hangs his head in silence. Not long after, Batman, who is in his car, receives a call from Robin saying that he knows where Mario Falcone is. At Poison Ivy's place, Catwoman asks Ivy when they will have enough money. Ivy replies that there will be enough when it feels like enough. Catwoman picks up a bag of money and asks what is the point of spending it. Then Ivy looks at Mario and says that Catwoman wants to spend the Falcone fortune that he is sharing with them. Mario closes his eyes and mumbles incoherently. Catwoman says that Mario is dying. But Ivy doesn't care because Mario's death only means one less criminal in Gotham City, and Catwoman will be the hero in this story. But Catwoman responds that this is not their plan. Suddenly, Batman breaks through the glass roof above and enters the room, shouting that he has come for Mario Falcone. Ivy ordered Catwoman to face Batman, but Catwoman replied that she didn't work for Ivy, but she obeyed Ivy and scratched Batman. Fortunately, Batman was able to dodge. But on the second scratch, Batman's chest was injured. Batman tried to talk to Catwoman, but Catwoman hissed at him, so Batman grabbed her hands and said that this wasn't her. However, Catwoman, who was under Ivy's influence, lifted her leg and kicked Batman, then kicked him in the stomach, after which Catwoman clawed Batman's hands. Finally, Batman felt that this was enough, so he lifted Catwoman's body and threw her onto a pile of bags containing money, while Ivy was seen taking one bag from the pile. Batman held Catwoman's back and said that she would not be grateful for this. After that, Batman used his bat knife to rip the back of Catwoman's clothes. It was revealed that Catwoman's back was covered with Ivy's vines. Batman used his knife to cut the vines, causing Catwoman's eyes, which had been green, to turn purple again. As soon as she regained consciousness, Catwoman immediately looked for Ivy, but Batman asked how long Mario had been on the wall, and Catwoman replied that it had been quite a while. Batman added that Mario needed to be taken to the hospital, and Catwoman agreed but asked that Mario not be taken to Arkham. Then Batman asked why not. But Catwoman only replied that Batman had come for Mario so he could assume he had won. Batman released Mario from Ivy's vines, and Mario could be heard asking for water. Batman then tried to ask Catwoman what her next plan was, but when he turned around, Catwoman was no longer there. Outside the window, Ivy was seen descending to the lower floor of the building with Ivy vines while carrying a bag of money. But then a gunshot was heard, and Ivy fell from the height of the building into the trash below. Ivy's leg was seen to be injured and bleeding. After that, a man in a coat and hat approached Ivy and threw 2 red roses and a pistol with a bandage on the handle. But suddenly, a hand carrying a .22 pistol shoots the hat worn by the man in the coat. And when he turns around, it is revealed that the man is Calendar Man. Calendar Man looks at the man in the coat who approaches him with a gun pointed at him, raises his hands, and comments that with 2 holidays, this will make everything more complicated. Soon, an ambulance arrived and took Falcone away in a stretcher. Jim and Batman were seen near the ambulance. Jim said that Batman must be proud of Robin for getting Mario's position. Batman replied that Mario must know something, otherwise why would they keep him alive? Jim then said that it was because Batman liked Catwoman. Lopez then came running and called Commissioner Gordon's name, reporting that they were investigating the surrounding area because Poison Ivy and Catwoman had escaped, and now they needed more ambulances. Batman went to where Ivy had fallen with Jim following him, while Jim said that Ivy had fallen. Batman added that Ivy had been shot and then fell. He ordered them to take her to Arkham to be treated by Dr. Thorne. Jim asked why it had to be Dr. Thorne, and Batman replied that just as Catwoman's leg had been shot on Halloween, Ivy could now be treated by the same doctor. At that moment, Batman opened his hand, which was holding 2 bullet casings from a single shot. Jim said that the shooter might have fired twice and one of the shots missed, but Batman denied that the shooter would have missed. Harvey Dent once asked if they knew that there were 2 holiday killers. At that time, Batman thought it was just Harvey's obsession with the number 2. But now, where were Two-Face and Gilda Dent? At the Gotham Pier, Catwoman was seen standing on a pole watching several people walking towards her. Catwoman then climbed down as the people got closer. Seeing her arrival, a nun who was Mario's mother thought that it was her son and not Selina. Then the 2 people next to Louisa pointed their guns at Selina. Catwoman removes the sunglasses worn by Mario's mother and replies that life is full of disappointments and calls her Mrs. Falcone. Mario's mother replies that she hasn't been called that in a long time and prefers to be called Sister Louisa. But Catwoman doesn't believe that she is a nun and also blind. Louisa replied that when they were in Rome, she had a reason to appear that way, but now in Gotham, it was no longer necessary, and besides, Catwoman had something she wanted. Catwoman also said that Louisa had something she needed. Meanwhile, Robin was seen arriving at his mother's grave and saw the yellow roses that Bruce had left there. He praised him for choosing yellow, the color of his cape. Robin said that he couldn't come until he was sure he had a new life. Even though life was hard, his mother had always taught him to believe in himself. Robin touched a photo of his mother taken when she was on a circus swing. He said that he was now Batman's partner, Robin, but he would always be her son. It turned out that it was Mother's Day. Now, Batman and Gordon are standing in front of the gates of Arkham Asylum. Gordon is surprised that Batman invited him here, and he asks where Robin is. They both enter the building, while Batman explains that this is a job for the two of them, while Robin is doing something for Batman. Finally, they arrive at a room with a name on the door. Batman asks if Jim, aka Gordon, can do this, and Jim replies that he has been doing this even before Batman existed. Batman then disappears, saying that Jim knows where to find him. At that moment, the nameplate on the door is visible, and the name on it is Oswald Cobblepot. On the other hand, Batman visited a room that looked like an operating room, where a man in a white coat, mask, and head covering was seen examining reports. Batman called him by the name Thorn. Thorn said that he preferred to be called Dr. Thorn, even though people knew him better as the crime doctor. Thorn then turned to Batman, and Batman asked Thorn to provide medical reports on Catwoman and Poison Ivy's leg injuries, which Thorn had operated on. Batman pulls on Thorn's collar, and Thorn says that the files are confidential, and giving them to Batman would cause him to lose his license. Thorn adds that he doesn't want to work in this dump, but it's all Dent's fault. Batman understood that Thorn was referring to Harvey Dent. Thorn was seen looking for files in a cabinet, saying that he was Dent's surgeon when his face was burned by acid. So when Dent escaped, Thorn was blamed. Batman took the files from Thorn and read the report, saying that both of their wounds were the same. Namely, wounds from a .22 caliber pistol that entered the same part of the body. Thorn insists that there is one difference. He recalls Robin's earlier statement when they found Catwoman here that Ivy was shot from a distance. Hearing this, Batman appears angry because Thorn accuses Catwoman of shooting herself. He grabs Thorn by the collar again and asks why Catwoman would do that. Thorn replies that he cannot question this, but Batman can. Batman then hit Thorn and asked why all the victims were sent here, why this place was safe for them, and Thorn replied that he didn't know, but he was sure someone else knew the reason, and Thorn knew where Batman could find that person. Hearing this, Batman fell silent. On the other hand, Jim was meeting Cobblepot, aka Penguin, at his place of detention. Cobblepot was seen eating raw fish. Jim greets Cobblepot, then places a gun in front of him and tells him to take it. Cobblepot says it's a trap, but Jim insists that Cobblepot take the gun, or he will make him regret not taking it now. Cobblepot extends his hand, saying that no one has ever spoken to him like that before. Jim hit Cobblepot with the bucket of raw fish on the table and said that Cobblepot didn't understand what he had taken from Jim. Cobblepot said that he would get even with Jim. Jim replied that they would never be even because Cobblepot had kidnapped his son and destroyed his family. So Jim wanted Cobblepot to tell him who had hired him. Cobblepot said he wouldn't say, but Jim insisted that Cobblepot tell him, and finally Cobblepot said the name Dent. Hearing this, Jim couldn't believe it because Two-Face, aka Harvey Dent, was his friend, but Cobblepot corrected him, saying he meant Gilda Dent, his wife. On the other hand, Harvey asks Calendar Man why they are both here, and Calendar Man replies that he has studied every inch of what is above them, especially since Calendar Man has lived up there during the best part of the year. Harvey removed the hat covering Calendar Man, saying that Calendar Man was acting as if he were Holiday. Calendar Man replied that he was doing this because Calendar Man was starting to be forgotten, even though it was Julian Day who had committed crimes on specific dates from the beginning. Harvey asked if Calendar Man was here to shoot Harvey, and Calendar Man replied no. Harvey asks again why Calendar Man brought the woman, and Calendar Man admits that it was the woman's idea. The woman says that it has to be done today, on a holiday, and besides, she has several guns. At that moment, Gilda says that she is happy to see Harvey working. Harvey asks why Mrs. Dent has the gun, and Gilda replies that Harvey knows why she has it, and that is what makes them a couple. Gilda then said they needed to talk. Harvey told her to just talk, but Gilda wanted them to talk alone, so Harvey tossed a coin into the air, and when it landed in his hand, there was an X mark on the surface of the coin. Harvey again told Gilda to talk, and Gilda then leaned in and whispered to Harvey that they were going to have a baby. Harvey looked surprised and said that it couldn't be true because he hadn't been with Gilda since Halloween. But Gilda reminded him that they had stored her eggs and Harvey's sperm because of their difficulty in having children. Gilda wanted to make sure to tell Harvey about this on Father's Day. Harvey pointed his gun at Gilda and said that she was lying. Gilda replied that this was a blessing and that Harvey would be a wonderful father. Solomon Grundy's growl was heard, and Harvey insisted that the only thing his father had given him was the coin in his hand. At that moment, Batman and Jim were walking in the rain towards Falcone's house. Jim commented that it was a miracle that the house hadn't collapsed, and Batman replied that he didn't believe in miracles. Jim replied that this didn't surprise him. Jim asks why Harvey has to live here when he hates Falcone so much. Batman kicks the wooden wall of the house while replying that the best place to build an empire is on the ashes of your enemies, especially when they are facing Two-Face. Once they are inside the house, Jim offers to check the upper floor via the stairs, and Batman warns Jim to be careful of Solomon Grundy because he is loyal to Two-Face. Jim took out his gun and replied that he hoped to meet him to pay for what he did to Detective Lopez. Jim went up the stairs and said that this house was close to Bruce Wayne's house and that the two families had a story that he didn't know was true or not. Jim said that Carmine Falcone came to see Thomas Wayne with a gunshot wound. Then Thomas Wayne helped him and stitched up his wound. At that moment, Jim looked around with his flashlight, unaware that a pair of eyes were watching him from behind. Jim continued his story, saying that Thomas's actions saved Carmine's life. But in his opinion, Thomas should have just let Carmine die so that everything would have been over right then and there. Unexpectedly, the eyes watching Jim broke through the wooden wall in front of him, and Solomon Grundy appeared. Jim, who was thrown from the hallway, shouted, "Oh my God!" While Batman, who was downstairs, saw this and stood guard. Solomon tried to find Jim, who was trapped under the wooden debris. Then Batman lit a red flare to illuminate the area and stood in front of Solomon to remind him that Solomon knew Batman, saying that Batman was Solomon's friend. But Solomon didn't seem to remember him and hit Batman on the head while muttering, "Born on a Monday." Solomon then punched Batman in the face, saying, "Died on a Tuesday." Batman raised both hands, saying, "Friend." At that moment, Solomon looked stunned watching him. Unexpectedly, a gunshot was heard, hitting Batman in the chest. Hearing this, Jim fired his gun in the direction of the shot and saw someone wearing a hat hit by the bullet. Solomon Grundy tried to destroy the wooden wall in front of him, causing the wooden floor beneath Batman and Jim to collapse, sending all three of them falling into the pool of water below. Batman immediately called Gordon, whose whereabouts were unknown, and Gordon, who was in the water, answered Batman's call. Batman then threw his boomerang, which was tied to a rope, to tie the wood that Gordon was holding onto and told him to hold on. Jim felt that they would not be able to get out of there in time, but Batman confidently replied that they could definitely do it. At that moment, Two-Face's voice told Batman that Batman had found him, but according to Harvey, the person Batman was looking for was not him. Harvey was seen holding two guns in his hands. Upon seeing Harvey, Jim told Batman to forget about him and just catch Harvey. However, Harvey said that they were in the wrong place, and upon hearing this, Batman fell silent. At that moment, Gilda, who was being swept away by the current, asked Harvey to help her, saying that she loved him, but Harvey told Solomon that they had to leave immediately. Solomon appeared and replied, "Solomon Grundy." Harvey insisted that this was not over yet, then the building at the edge of the cliff collapsed and fell into the sea. Among the ruins of the building on the cliff, a hand reached out, pulling Jim away from the cliff and breathing a sigh of relief. Batman asked Jim if he still didn't believe in miracles. At that moment, Mario Falcone was in prison, asleep in bed, his body connected to an IV drip. A moment later, Selina, aka Catwoman, appeared in the prison, soaking wet, and said that she had sacrificed herself for Mario. Mario woke up and asked how Selina got in, and Selina replied that cats can get anywhere. Selina's hand played with the IV tube, and she told Mario that they had a deal. Mario replied that the deal did not include kidnapping him and stealing from him. Selina said it was Poison Ivy's doing, even though she appreciated the $2 million down payment. Selina then lifted the IV tube to her mouth and said that if Mario didn't want to know what effect the small bubbles in this tube would have on his brain, then he had better keep his promise. Selina reminded Mario once again to keep his promise. Hearing this, Mario could only call out Selina's name, who had already disappeared from there. Suddenly, a voice asked Mario who he was talking to. Then Mario turned his attention to the front of the bars and found his mother there. Mario asked when his mother had arrived, and his mother replied that Mario had to answer when Luisa Falcone asked him. Mario replied that he was talking to Selina Kyle. And upon hearing this, Luisa sighed. She reminded him that he was in a locked cell. Luisa lifted Mario's chin and said that Mario had always been smart, unlike his sisters and brothers. In fact, he was like his unfortunate father. He was originally sent there for burning down a house, and now he was in prison. Luisa added that she had brought a lawyer for Mario, and this lawyer would get Mario out of prison because a Falcone should not live in prison. After getting out of prison, she told Mario to heal himself and become strong, and then on Halloween night, Mario must continue what he had started and make his father proud by reclaiming Gotham City. On August 2nd, Carmine, the Roman Falcone, celebrated his last birthday before he died. The Roman holiday incident was a moment of horror. Carmine's long-standing desire was to eliminate his enemies from the face of the earth. It was Carmine who orchestrated the acid attack on District Attorney Harvey Dent's face. When the serial killer known as Holiday emerged to kill members of the Falcone family, everyone assumed Holiday was Dent. But it turned out that Holiday was Carmine's son, Alberto Falcone. After this fact was revealed, the case was closed. But now Holiday has reappeared, and the first victim on Halloween was Catwoman, though it seems Catwoman shot herself. But why did she do it? That remains a mystery. Every time Batman tries to find out more about this, he always returns to the Roman penthouse, which is now occupied by Mario Falcone. Batman looks down at the ground floor, where many people are walking towards the Roman penthouse, one of whom is wearing a brown coat and hat. Batman pulls the man in the brown coat into the darkness, then takes his clothes to disguise himself and enters Roman's penthouse. The people who arrive are greeted by Luisa Falcone, who says that her late husband used to say that family is the most important thing. At that moment, Batman is surprised to see Selina standing next to Luisa without her Catwoman suit. Luisa continued her speech, thanking Don Verini for coming to the meeting from Rome. At that moment, Selina told the man in the brown coat that he should have taken off his hat once he was at the meeting. Batman then removed his disguise and intended to run away, but Falcone's men shot at him and tried to capture him. Batman dodged, causing the bullets to hit Falcone's other men instead. Meanwhile, Mario told his mother to hide under the table while he fired his gun at Batman. Batman jumped and kicked his enemy with his knee, ducking to avoid Falcone's men's shots. He then moved closer to another shooter and hit him without hesitation. After that, Batman ran away from the enemy's shots. Some of the shots hit a painting of Mario's parents when they were young. At that moment, one of Falcone's men managed to point his gun at Batman. The man said, "Abastanza, now you die." But unexpectedly, before the gun was fired, Catwoman bumped into Batman and kicked the man down, saving Batman from the shot. Catwoman deliberately knocked Batman onto the balcony, while Batman said that he knew Catwoman would come here. Catwoman stood up and kicked Batman in the chest to make it look like they were fighting. Catwoman said that she thought Batman was grateful to her for saving him. Catwoman then kicked Batman in the face and added that these people were not like the criminals of Gotham because they were not afraid of Batman. At that moment, the shooter, who Batman had hit earlier, comes out onto the balcony with a shotgun, intending to shoot Batman, but Mario stops him because he is worried that Catwoman will be hit by the shot. However, the man has already fired and hit Batman in the chest, causing Batman to fall from the balcony. Catwoman said she would regret this in the morning, then she jumped and landed on top of Batman, while Batman told Catwoman to hold on to him. Batman then used a grapple gun to shoot a rope at the building so he could hang on to it. Catwoman asked what Batman was doing, and she used her claws to hold on to Batman's legs. She said that she didn't need to wait until night because she already regretted her decision now. Batman looked like he was in pain because Catwoman was scratching his legs. Batman asked if Catwoman was okay, but Catwoman instead asked about Batman's condition because his chest had been shot. Batman replied, "Kevlar." Hearing this, Catwoman also wanted to buy one like that. Batman offered his hand to pull Catwoman up, but Catwoman refused because she chose to climb up Batman's body instead. She said that cats have always climbed while bats fly, and she asked if Batman had a jetpack or if he just wanted to be close to Catwoman. Batman tells Catwoman that he read her medical report when she shot herself on Halloween. Batman asks why Catwoman did that. Hearing this, Catwoman says she hates Batman, and her claws then cut the rope Batman was using to swing. The two of them slid down until they broke through the glass roof and fell onto a table. With blood streaming from his head and body, Batman realized that Catwoman knew who Holiday was, and Batman asked Catwoman why she thought Batman was on the wrong side. Catwoman stood up and said that Batman would find out something about Catwoman that she might not want him to know, or maybe she just wanted Batman to hear it directly from her. Catwoman then jumped out of the room from the broken roof, adding that now was not the time for Batman to know. Hearing this, Batman just stood silently watching Catwoman leave. At Arkham Asylum, Thorne is seen raising his hands as Harvey Dent points two guns at him. Thorne says he has arranged everything as Harvey requested, and Harvey replies that he will decide whether it is enough or not. On the table are medical reports of Thorne's patients, including Catwoman, Oswald Cobblepot, the Riddler, Solomon Grundy, Calendar Man, the Joker, Tweedledum, and Tweedledee, the Mad Hatter, the Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, and Poison Ivy. Harvey says he needs more than this, at least twice as much. But then Harvey says he didn't come for this. He points his gun at Thorne to ask how Thorne knows Gilda. Thorne admits that Gilda was looking for him, saying that Harvey told her to find Thorne to find out about Harvey's health. Harvey shifts his question to Gilda's health, asking how many months pregnant she is, but before Thorne can answer, the Joker arrives, calling Harvey's name. Hearing this, Harvey gets angry, saying that Harvey Dent is dead. Finally, the Joker called him by the name Two-Face. The Joker said he had heard about Two-Face's new team and wanted to join him. Joker promised not to betray him and added, "I get Arkham." Two-Face tossed his signature coin and caught it again, then shook hands with the Joker, but what he didn't realize was that the Joker had crossed his fingers behind his back. In the cave, Robin, who saw Batman's condition, asked what happened to him, and Batman replied that it was Catwoman's doing. Robin asked if he should call Alfred to treat him, but Batman said to wait because he was still looking at Robin's data collection on Mario Falcone. Robin explained that he found out where Mario went after he burned down his house and before he returned to Gotham City. A note from the Squire Institute for the Criminally Insane appears on the screen, and Batman replies that he knows this place is in Nantucket. Robin explains again that he was looking for patients who had a connection to Mario but didn't find any, but at the same time there was one patient who escaped from that place, and that patient's name was Grace Powell. As soon as the patient's image appears on the screen, Robin says that the patient is Gilda Dent. Batman says that Gilda's maiden name is Powell, and he says there must be security footage of the escape. Robin shows a security recording that he says is from a year ago, which he has played hundreds of times. The recording shows Gilda running towards a boat. Batman told Robin to pause the recording and zoom in. The image showed two men who had previously posed as FBI agents, but were actually working for Mario Falcone, namely Edward and Sullivan. Seeing this, Robin wondered how he could have missed this, but Batman replied that sometimes when they were too focused on one thing, they would miss something right in front of them. Batman concluded that Mario Falcone and the Dents had been working together from the start. Meanwhile, in Louisa Falcone's office, behind her desk, was a painting of her with her husband and a baby in her lap, which had been shot full of holes. At that moment, Catwoman entered the room and said that it was all over, because without the painting, Catwoman had nothing she wanted from Louisa, so Louisa couldn't get anything from her either. Louisa said the meeting didn't go smoothly because she had hoped to tell them everything on her husband's birthday. Louisa thanked Catwoman for helping, though she wasn't sure if Catwoman had intended to remove Batman from her house or save him. She told Catwoman to choose which side she supported. Catwoman replied that the side she supported remained the same as before, and Louisa responded that the side Catwoman supported was also the side Falcone supported. Catwoman seemed skeptical, but she reminded Louisa that she needed to consider Batman if she wanted to succeed in Gotham City, because Batman was part of the city. Catwoman then said that she did not come to talk about Batman, but to say goodbye. Louisa asked if Catwoman really believed that Louisa would let Carmine Falcone win, because when Carmine destroyed Catwoman's life, it meant that Louisa's life would also be destroyed. Louisa says that Catwoman has heard the story about Carmine taking her baby just because she was a girl, and putting Louisa in a convent for her protection. Louisa says she left Carmine not for her own safety, but to protect Catwoman, because Louisa is afraid Carmine will find out the truth. Louisa stood up from her chair and asked Catwoman to give Louisa what she had stolen from the Vatican, and in return, Louisa would give Catwoman all the documentation she wanted. Catwoman asked how she could be sure Louisa wouldn't kill her when she gave her the ring, and Louisa replied that it was because she was Selina Falcone, the lost heir to the Falcone family. Catwoman removed her mask, revealing Selina's face, and asked if this was true. Louisa hugged Selina and said she no longer wanted to lie to her. Selina then asked about Mario, and Louisa replied that Mario would do what he had to do. Louisa wanted to know what her daughter wanted. Meanwhile, Batman's car is parked in front of Harvey and Gilda Dent's house. Since Jim Gordon's child was found in this house, it has been cordoned off with police tape. Batman and Robin enter the house. Batman goes downstairs and Robin, who sees him, asks what Batman is looking for here. In his heart, Batman thinks that Gilda must be hiding in this house with a gun. At that moment, Gilda was seen hiding in the dark in front of a shooting award trophy, and Batman took the trophy. It was written on the trophy that the winner of the shooting award was Gilda Powell. Batman then told Robin that he was too focused on finding the boy at that time. A shadow of holiday visited Mario Falcone's room. Thunder rumbled and Mario woke up from his sleep, grabbing the gun behind his pillow and asking who was there. The person replied that they was Holiday. Mario asked which Holiday, and the person said they was the only one worthy of being Holiday. The person took off their hat, revealing Gilda's face. Mario called Gilda's name and hugged her. Mario asks why Gilda is here, worried that someone might see her. Gilda says that the man knows, and Mario asks who knows. Gilda replies, Two-Face. Mario seems incredulous because he shot him in the head as planned, but Gilda explains that Harvey Dent is dead, but Two-Face is still alive and knows about the two of them and the baby. In the cave, Batman tells Robin that he is counting on him, and Robin replies that he knows. Apparently, Jim Gordon is also there with Detective Lopez. Jim asks if they need additional help, but Batman says, "We have everyone we need." Robin opens the trunk of Batman's car and asks if what's inside is really for him, and Batman replies that he thinks Robin could use it if he's used to riding a unicycle on a tightrope. At the same time, the gates of Arkham Asylum open, and Two-Face is on the roof of the asylum with his army consisting of Oswald Cobblepot, the Riddler, Solomon Grundy, the Joker, the Mad Hatter, the Scarecrow, Mr. Freeze, and Poison Ivy. Two-Face tells his men, never give up the high ground. Meanwhile, Mario, wearing a clown mask, is inside the asylum gates and orders his men to kill them all. Mr. Freeze, Oswald, Two-Face, and Joker fire their weapons. Falcone's men also fire back, even though some of them are hit by shots from the Freaks. Soon after, Joker and Oswald are also hit by shots from Falcone's side. Mario then orders his men to break in. On the other side, Batman also gives the order to start the attack now. Robin is seen holding a bazooka to fire smoke bullets, and as soon as the smoke bullets are fired at Two-Face, Solomon deflects them, causing the bullets to explode and hit Solomon. The Riddler, recognizing these shots as knockout gas, realizes that this means Batman is here. He tells his friends to cover their mouths and immediately go inside, but Two-Face orders them to stay where they are. Meanwhile, Solomon, who was affected by the knockout gas, fell from the roof to the floor below, where Falcone's men were. At that moment, Batman took advantage of this opportunity to enter the asylum. Robin smiled on his motorcycle and said goodbye to Batman. Falcone's men shot at the asylum door, and as soon as the door opened, Batman was seen with iron gloves on his hands. However, Falcone's men were not afraid of Batman and only considered him to be a man in a bat costume. Batman immediately punched Falcone's men in front of him while the white-haired man called out Fort's name, who had just been hit by Batman and intended to shoot Batman. However, at that moment, a shot hit the white-haired man's cheek. It turned out that Jim, who was on the second floor, shot the man to protect Batman, but suddenly, someone shot Jim from the side. It was Oswald, aka Penguin. He told Jim that he should have just killed his son so that none of this would have happened. At that moment, Lopez was behind him and hit Penguin with the butt of her rifle. Lopez said that Penguin had destroyed a man's life and his family. Lopez then knocked Penguin down and pinned him to the floor. Lopez said that Penguin had kidnapped and attempted to murder a police officer, and that he would be going to prison for a long time. Lopez then heard Jim moving behind her and asked, "What?" Jim simply replied that he knew Lopez wanted to beat the man up. On the other hand, Robin was seen riding his motorcycle on the second floor of Arkham Asylum, crashing into enemies who blocked his way. At that moment, Robin felt that Batman trusted him more, even though he knew Batman thought he was arrogant. But according to Robin, this was his confidence. Robin rode his motorcycle in a zigzag pattern, then said that this motorcycle was very cool. At that moment, Tweedledum and Tweedledee appeared in front of Robin. They both asked if Robin wanted to play with them, and Robin agreed while making the stick he was carrying glow. Meanwhile, Batman also attacked the Freaks, aka Two-Face's henchmen. He hit Mr. Freeze with his iron gloves, then Batman pinned Scarecrow down and used his right foot to kick Riddler until he fell. After that, Batman hit Mad Hatter and Poison Ivy. Suddenly, Joker pointed a gun at Batman, saying that Batman's combat suit was bulletproof, but his mouth was not. At that moment, Robin arrived and shouted that this was a one-way street. Robin let his motorcycle crash into Joker while he jumped off the motorcycle. Robin tells Joker to be careful with the first turn ahead, and Robin's motorcycle continues to speed towards the end of the railing, causing Joker to fall freely to the ground along with Robin's motorcycle. Batman looks at Joker, who is unconscious on the ground, and tells Robin that he could have handled it himself, to which Robin replies that it hurts him to say that. Batman then thanked Robin. Robin looked surprised to hear Batman's words, then Batman left the place. Robin, who saw him leaving, reminded him that Two-Face was still on the roof, but Batman continued running, while replying that he knew that. Soon after, Batman is in Calendar Man's cell. He shows a piece of calendar paper with October 31st written on it that was sent to Commissioner Gordon's office. He says this paper came from Calendar Man because Batman recognizes it as the same calendar paper that was posted in Calendar Man's cell. Calendar Man's presence in this cell meant that he no longer supported Two-Face and did not want to deal with Falcone's men. Batman knew that Calendar Man did not like his crimes being forgotten because of Holiday, so Batman wanted Calendar Man to tell him who Holiday was. Calendar Man replied that Holiday is neither male nor female, but rather an idea that on a special day, a .22 caliber pistol can bring terror to Gotham City. However, Batman insisted that he wanted Calendar Man to name one person, to which Calendar Man replied that it started with a collaboration between two men who hated each other. Batman guessed that it was Mario Falcone and Harvey Dent. Calendar Man added that they were two sides of the same coin, completely different, and Batman argued that this meant they were on the same side, and that each of them wanted the other to betray them first. Finally, Calendar Man gave one last clue. There was one person who knew both of them, one person who could make them work together, and that one person might even love them both. Hearing this, Batman gritted his teeth. In another part of the asylum, Thorne is seen burning papers with Holiday watching him from behind. Thorne says that after this, he wants to leave the asylum, feeling that he must be crazy for doing this. Suddenly, a voice says that destroying evidence is a crime. It turned out to be Catwoman. She said she wanted to take her medical files, but it seemed that Thorne was doing something that made her curious. Seeing Catwoman's arrival, Holiday pointed the gun at her. She told Catwoman to go home because she knew which side she was on and who she really was, as Mario had already told her. Catwoman knocked Holiday down while saying, "Mario?" Holiday's hat fell off from the blow, revealing that Holiday was actually Gilda. Catwoman told Thorne to take her medical records and asked what Thorne was burning. Catwoman took a partially burned piece of paper and read Gilda's health report, which stated that Gilda was not pregnant. Seeing this, Catwoman muttered, "Mario!" In another part of the asylum, Batman takes off his iron gloves and tells Two-Face that he wants to talk to Harvey Dent, but Two-Face replies that Harvey Dent is dead, reminding him that this is not over yet. Batman insists that it is over because Two-Face has been betrayed. Jim is seen behind Two-Face, hiding behind a wall with a gun. Two-Face says he will shoot the kid and he won't miss. Two-Face then shoots Jim's hand behind him. Seeing this, Batman calls out Jim's name. Jim calms Batman by saying he's okay, then reminds Harvey that they used to be friends and tells Harvey to listen to Batman. Batman replies that both sides have lost and they should go back to their cells, But before Batman can finish, Mario interrupts him. He said that not all sides had lost because there was always one side that won. Mario pointed his gun at Gilda and said that Dent would confess to all these crimes, including the kidnapping, the shooting, and the freak mask. Gilda looked terrified and begged Harvey to save her. Two-Face recognized the clown mask Mario was wearing and said that this was the person who had shot him. Mario said he would finish everything now, while Gilda was still frantically saying to Two-Face, "Harvey, please come back to me." Batman told Mario to lower his gun because they didn't want Gilda to get hurt, and at that moment, Two-Face looked shocked to hear that the woman was Gilda. Gilda struggled and tried to free herself from the masked man's grip. Gilda said, "I love you." At that moment, a gunshot rang out and Gilda's eyes widened. Seeing this, Two-Face thought Gilda had been shot and he shouted, "The two of us!" At that moment, the masked man bent down and his mask fell off. He asked who was the clown now. Mario turned to Two-Face and said that Gilda's declaration of love was not meant for Harvey. Hearing this, Two-Face shot Mario repeatedly and shouted that Mario was talking about his wife. Batman beat Two-Face until both of his guns were knocked away, while Robin also pointed his baton at Gilda, telling her to give him a reason not to kill her. Two-Face finally knelt down, raised his hands, and asked Batman to stop all this because he would confess to everything he was accused of. Batman asked how he could believe Two-Face's words. Then Two-Face said that he killed Mario Falcone. He didn't want them to punish Gilda because she was only acting in self-defense. Gilda said that what she did was so she could be with Harvey. She said they were two halves of the same whole. Two-Face insisted that he would go to prison, but he wanted them to help Gilda because she needed help. Hearing this, Batman fell silent and turned to Jim, asking, "Jim?" Jim then arrested Two-Face, aka Harvey Dent. Harvey hoped that Jim would promise to help Gilda by calling him Jimbo, but Jim responded that Harvey didn't need to call him Jimbo because they had already passed that stage. At that moment, Lopez approached Robin and asked him to hand Gilda over to her. Next, Robin saw Holiday's hat flying away in the wind, and at that moment, he spotted Catwoman running with a bag from the side road of the asylum. Robin guesses to Batman that Batman invited Catwoman here, which is why Batman said earlier, "We have everyone we need." Batman replies that he knows Catwoman will need her medical records, and he also wants to know which side Catwoman is on. Robin asks, "And?" A few weeks later at the Squire Institute for the Criminally Insane in Nantucket, Massachusetts, Gilda is seen in her room with her hands tied with rope and newspaper clippings about Harvey and photos of Harvey and Gilda pinned to the wall behind her. Gilda calls out Harvey's name at the same time at Gotham State Prison outside Gotham City. Two-Face is seen with his hands cuffed, calling out Gilda's name. At Roman's penthouse, Catwoman was seen sitting on the roof of the building, looking at the ring on her hand. She said she really liked the view, which was probably why she always wanted to come back here to steal something. She muttered that she had to return to Rome to take care of new and old problems. Behind Catwoman, Batman is seen. He guesses that Catwoman shot her own leg, and Catwoman replies that she didn't want to give Holiday the chance to shoot her somewhere else. Batman says that wounded victims always end up in Arkham because it's safe until it's no longer safe. Batman wonders how Mario could have pointed a gun at Gilda and asks Catwoman whose side she's on. Catwoman approaches Batman saying that Batman is a detective, so she is sure that one day Batman will find the answer. At that moment, Batman might understand or he might get angry. Catwoman whispers to Batman that she often makes him angry. Batman turns away from Catwoman and asks her why she thinks Batman is on the wrong side. According to Catwoman, Batman always sees everything in black and white. When Batman sees freaks and gangsters, he thinks they are evil. But when the city is run by a criminal organization, everything becomes organized, while the appearance of the Joker, Two-Face, and Scarecrow creates chaos. Batman feels that Catwoman thinks Batman brought them to Gotham. Then Catwoman asks why Batman cares about what Catwoman thinks. Batman is silent. Catwoman continues, saying that after seeing Batman, they realized they could dye their hair green or wear sandbags on their heads. Catwoman says she became Catwoman because she was inspired by Batman and feels that the two of them could. But before Catwoman can finish, Batman's spotlight turns on and Catwoman falls silent. Batman says he has to go, while Catwoman advises Batman to take care of himself because the city needs him. After that, Batman is seen jumping off the roof. Where Batman's spotlight was, Jim is seen waiting there. Robin approaches Jim and says that Batman will be there soon because he has to go somewhere first. But Jim feels that he has to get used to the Robin answering the call now. Robin refused to be called the Robin and told him to call him Robin. Jim thought he wanted to be called the Robin because Batman was also called the Batman, but Robin replied that Jim would know later that Robin and Batman were not the same. Jim admitted that he couldn't wait for that moment and hoped it would happen years later. At that moment, Batman appeared and replied, "It will be." Jim tells Batman that when they took down the Romans and lost Harvey Dent, he remembers Batman asking if it was worth it. Now Jim replies that it was worth it and always will be. Robin asks if it will always be like this, with gangs with their weapons, freaks with whatever they have, and then they will take them down. Batman replied that that was why they were here. Batman said he believed in Robin, Jim Gordon, and Batman. More than that, he believed in Gotham City. At that moment, Jim, Batman, and Robin stood with the spotlight shining on Batman in the darkness of the night. And in the end, after years of mystery surrounding the holiday murders, the truth finally comes to light. The person behind the holiday killings is revealed to be Gilda Dent, a revelation that ties the entire Long Halloween saga together, from the fall of Gotham's mafia families to the tragic transformation of Harvey Dent, and the long shadow those events cast over the city. What began as a murder mystery ultimately became one of the most defining crime sagas in Batman history. And with The Last Halloween, Jeff Loeb finally brings that story to its conclusion. This is Panelix, and I'll see you in the next comic breakdown. Have a nice day.